Way low. Way low. High. High.
Maybe you're wondering how I got here. Well, this was the culmination of what may seem like a bunch of bad ideas. This is Desert Brutality 2022, and today I'm here shooting Trooper Division, which means we have to get here about an hour before sunrise, and we have to actually hike in from the parking lot with all of our kit. Part of the idea of Trooper is everything you're going to use for the match for the entire day, you carry with you through the entire match. So I've got my lunch, I've got all my ammo, everything that I'm going to have for the day is here, and we're going to be shooting the entire match in one day. Now, this is a two-gun match, rifle and pistol, but it's also, you have the option to shoot pistol caliber carbine. And I have decided to use this match as an experiment to see what the limitations and the capabilities are of the USW. So this is my PCC, which hopefully means this and a couple mags for it and its ammo are all that I have to carry today. So our initial ruck in is hardly a ruck at all for me, because and off we go to the match start.
So I see, unlike everybody else who's covered in stuff, you've only got this tiny little gun.
Yeah, that's what we call a pro gamer move.
The next 2 days, but not today.
Oh, this just was a training. All the way in?
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. For better or worse, the match is going to start off with the hardest stage for me, and that is, well, it's a 200-yard rifle bay. So, from a series of obstacles, I have to engage 3 targets with 1 hit each from each obstacle. And you can sort of see the full-size silhouette in the middle of the bay down there, but there are also a pair of essentially half-size silhouettes. I think they're B/C zone silhouettes. One in the left corner and one in the right corner of the bay. And I don't think you can see them at all from the camera view here. We'll zoom in a minute, and you will be able to, but I have a pretty hard time hitting them or seeing them myself here, much less hitting them. So what is it that makes these shots so incredibly difficult? Because what I was doing here was essentially holding my red dot right smack in the center or at the top edge of the target, and my hits were just coming in this huge cone of impact area all around the target. So I'll alternate from left to right, from above the target to skipping off the dirt below the target. And the reason for this is a combination of separate elements. First off, I'm shooting a 4.5-inch barreled tilting barrel action pistol, which is not necessarily a particularly accurate system overall. It's not really necessarily something that you're going to see at 25 or 50 yards.
Moving them? All right.
Yeah, several of these I just give up, abandon the target, and move up to try and get some of the stage done. Anyway, a 4-inch Browning-style pistol is not necessarily a very accurate gun, and that really, that's a really big impact at 200 meters. Here you go. Now you can see those targets on the left and right, mostly. And you can see my shots wandering all over the place. Now, second issue is I'm shooting Fiocchi 9mm ball ammunition, 115 grain. It is the most accurate of the ammunition in this pistol that I had in quantity, but I tested this out before the match, and at 100 yards, I was able to keep 9 out of 10 rounds on a full-size silhouette, which is pretty pathetic. If you compare that to a rifle or even a pistol caliber carbine, that's pretty terrible. And then thirdly, there is a tremendous amount of parallax in the Trijicon RMR that I have on the USW here. And what parallax means is if you're not seeing the dot in the exact same spot in the lens, the dot is actually moving to a different point of aim. So if I hold the pistol perfectly steady and move my head around behind it, you can still see the dot, you can still put the dot on the target, but your point of impact is actually going to be shifting. Good quality red dots don't have parallax or have minimal parallax. Pistol dots are small enough, and that's usually not that big of a factor for a pistol. And so pistol dots tend to have a lot more parallax. The RMR definitely does. I have some Delta Point Pros, and those definitely do too. So especially, for example, right here, I'm bracing the gun up against the barricade, and I realized after a couple of shots that I'm letting the dot presentation kind of shift off to the side of the sight, which is impacting where I'm hitting because of the parallax shift from the optic. So the way this stage works, once I get to the very end here, I hit the left and right targets first, and then I drop the magazine, and I have one shot to make a hit on the center target. And the idea is after I've made that shot, the gun is absolutely 100% guaranteed empty because there's no magazine, and I just fired the round in the chamber. So after that shot, the gun is considered unloaded, and the 180 doesn't apply. And that's why you see me at one point sweeping the cameraman with it, because we 100% know that it's empty. So I manage a ton of penalties here. I time out on the stage at this point and do terribly. So let's move on to the next stage. Stage 2 is the second longest range in the match. These are, I believe, 150 meters from these first set of barrels. We have two approximately 12-inch plates, one on the left, one on the right, and I have to hit each of those plates once from each of these barrels. So this is going to be, again, challenging, but I've moved up 50 meters, so this is substantially closer than the first stage. The targets are also smaller, but overall, I'm actually able to make sort of mostly decent hits on these. It just takes me a very long time. There were a couple of instances here where I got really close to abandoning the target. Figured, all right, I'll give it one more shot, and then actually made it with that last shot. So I'm able to brace on the barrel. That's helpful, but I still have these compound issues of just basic accuracy of the gun, plus consistency of the ammunition, plus the parallax in the dot. Here I didn't quite get it all the way into battery. It's an easy fix, but it does do that to me once or twice on this stage. Let's see if we can get that second hit on the small target down there. Trying. I'm running this whole match, by the way, with 21 round magazines. That's one of the standard magazine sizes that SIG has for the 320. I should also say, by the way, this is a shoulder stock module made by Brugger Thomet, B&T, but the slide and the whole mechanical system of the pistol is a SIG 320, and that's what that grip module is specifically made for. So I did a whole video on this 320 earlier this week, so if you haven't seen it, check that out. I'll link to it at the end of this video. From these closer barrels, I have a substantially easier time making my hits. Still not, I have to take some time, try. Again, I'm holding the dot right in the center of the plate here, and my cone of impact is substantially larger than the plate, and it's just a matter of keep shooting until one of them happens to end up on the plate. Now, next up, we're going to run to this barrel, and I have to spin the spinner here. Normally, if I weren't running this with a pistol caliber carbine, all the shooting up to this point would be done with the rifle. And with a rifle, a spinner from this range is very much doable. Now, I do have an alternative, sort of a new addition to the rule set, at least for this match, was that you can spin the spinner or make 15 hits on it as long as you are alternating top and bottom shots. And so I see very little chance that I'll be able to actually spin this thing with a 4-inch 9mm from 50 meters away. But if I can make 15 hits on it, there's number 9, then I'll be able to move on. The normal design of this stage would have me at this point, after I conclude the spinner, I would sling my rifle and finish the stage. There we go, one more instance of the gun not quite going into battery. Normally I would draw my pistol after this, move forward and finish the stage with pistol. Because I'm shooting pistol caliber carbine division, I'm using one firearm as both rifle and pistol. So if I can get a few more hits, let's see, that's 12. I'm getting closer, but man, it's still really challenging shots here. to try and get this. There we go. Now I can move forward. I have to unload and show clear as I would if I had a rifle, but then I can immediately reload the thing because I'm going to come up here, hit the small plates once each. That's super easy, especially with the shoulder stock. And then I have to spin the spinner one more time from the pistol position, and I will run out of time here. So not a bad effort. I did better here than I expected, but still not very well. All right, stage 3.
I finally have a stage I think I can do.
This is one that I always really enjoy. This is a Casarda drill, which means we'll be alternating shooting prone and throwing a kettlebell downrange. And this time, I believe we have a 35-pound kettlebell, which is not too heavy to do this with. I've done this sort of thing a lot. Even though I look like a dork because my hat's coming off, I am going to run this pretty darn well. This is one where that, I believe that's an FBI Q silhouette. And we start at 100 yards. Ooh, that's a great roll on that throw. But I can make those hits pretty easily. The only times I have problems are when I just try to go a little too fast and pull off a shot before I have a good sight picture. But on the path to do really well here until that. So this was a very unusual malfunction. The trigger essentially just went dead and didn't reset. And so I did a little mucking about with it here. After the stage, I took the gun apart to inspect, and the best I can determine, some grit in the trigger mechanism put a little too much friction on the trigger reset bar, and it just wasn't going back into battery, or it wasn't, the trigger wasn't resetting. Pulling the mag and racking it a couple of times got whatever was in there out of there and allowed me to finish the stage. So I still actually ended up doing remarkably well on this stage, despite the malfunction. Pretty happy I was able to clear it during the course of the stage. But there you go, 27th out of 174 overall shooters. There's the last shot. I do enjoy this stage always. All right. This is the halfway point of the match, stage 4 out of 7. And to be totally honest, this one's a bit bland to watch. It's a little bit tedious to shoot. The idea here is there's a small pistol target and a larger rifle target, and you have to make 8 hits on each, one after the other. Normally, you would shoot the pistol side with your pistol and the rifle side with your rifle. Rules require that you have no support, so you can't rest on the table to do this. And of course, since I'm in pistol caliber carbine division, I'm using the same gun for both targets. So the pistol side is super easy. The rifle side is a little trickier for me. On this thing, we're still in a situation where the mechanical accuracy of the pistol with all these elements put together is still larger than the target. And so sometimes it'll take me 3 or maybe 4 shots to have a round that actually lands on the target, even with a pretty good consistent hold. But I can make them. It's just a matter of keep the process going, and eventually I will get the hits. So miss, miss, and there's a hit. So 3rd time on that one. I have plenty of time here for the entirety of Desert Brutality 2022. Stage par times were upped from 3 minutes to 4. So I have a total of 240 seconds to complete this stage. And spoiler alert, I will manage to complete it. Oh, of course, forgot to mention, between your shots, you do have to toss the kettlebell over the 2 barrels. This is a light one. It's a 25-pound kettlebell, I think. It really wasn't a physical challenge. It was more of just a process. It's an extra step that you have to do that's going to distract you a bit, slow you down. So this exact same stage was done at Desert Brutality in 2021 as well, although it was actually a substantially more difficult presentation last year. The targets were smaller and farther away. The kettlebell was heavier, and the barrier you had to get it over was higher. So this was sort of easy mode of this stage. We're getting close. I think this is my 7th pistol hit. Yep. So one more set. I think it's one more set. This is one of those stages where you just you get into a groove and just keep doing it until the RO tells you that you're all done. There we go. There's that one. Overall, my placement is coming up. I'm now 47th out of 174 on this stage. This is one where I don't have the huge disadvantage from it being a short pistol. All right, stage 5. This, as you can see at the bottom, is a wobbly platform, and I am shooting at clay pigeons. I and about half of the other competitors forgot to rack the slide. The idea is you start with the chamber empty because you're getting up onto this wobbly platform. Once you have a stable position, you then charge the gun, and you have to hit 3 clay pigeons on the backstop there. That takes me a little bit longer than it probably should have. Unload, show that the gun's clear, and then I have to carry this sandbag, which weighs, I think, 30, 40 pounds, something like that. You just have to carry it to the next bay, drop it anywhere in the bay, and then we will engage a Polish plate rack. So there are weights on either end of this, so as soon as you let it start spinning, it will, by itself, accelerate. You'll notice there the stock kind of gets hooked in the pocket of my otherwise extremely cool Verosteleco wool shell jacket. That happens to me a number of times throughout the match. The rules on this stage also require that you knock off, you can only knock off 1 plate at a time from each position. So you get 1 from the left, 1 from underneath, 1 from the right, and then go back to the left side. Because this particular spinner had a propensity to drop multiple plates, like that, any extra shots that any like lucky shots you get, you have to make up on that static steel plate. So show that the gun's clear one more time, go get the sandbag and carry it the rest of the way to the 3rd pistol bay here, where we will essentially repeat the same sort of engagement. I can drop it anywhere in the bay, and then there are 4 static steel targets. Oops. It is important to actually seat magazines all the way. Pro tip there. Let's try again with a new magazine. There we go. So get a hit on each target from the left, a hit on each target from underneath, and then a hit on each target from the right. This is the sort of shooting where the USW really came into its own. These are small and relatively difficult targets with a pistol. They become far easier with a shoulder stock as a 3rd point of contact. So see, they're 3rd in PCC and really quite well overall. Stage 6, we are going to continue with some of the short range shooting here. The match is getting more and more pistol centric as we go on. Here there are 5 clay pigeons on the backstop, and I have to hit 1 and then move to a new shooting box, and I'm able to do that really quite well. I had trouble with the clays on the last stage because I was standing on a wobbly platform. Now that I have my feet solidly under me, with the exception of that box, I am able to make hits really quite quickly. And then we have the same sort of thing. There are going to be 3 bays that you shoot at here. So unload and show clear between them. In this case, we're crawling under some tables, perhaps dumping our gun into the dirt there. Here you can see we have 4 shooting boxes and 4 targets. So from each box, I have to get a hit on one of the targets and then move to the next box. Again, the USW really shines in this sort of engagement, and I believe I'm able to make this completely clean. Once you get these 4, you run up to the forward box, and you have to hit the head on that hostage holder target. I drop the magazine. You get 1 shot to do it, and again, after you've made that shot, you know that the gun is 100% clear and unloaded, so the 180 safety rule no longer applies, and you can point it wherever you want. Still don't want to really deliberately point it at anybody, but we know that the gun is in a safe condition. Get down to the 3rd bay, reload 1 more time, and essentially have, again, the same sort of thing here. There are 5 targets, 3 boxes, hit a target, there we go, move to the next box, hit another target, move. So 1 target per box until you have hit all 5 of them. Now I'm doing really well here. I'm up to, on this stage, 21st out of 174 shooters. Again, this is where the stocked pistol really does well. All right, stage 7, last stage of the match. This is a pistol-only stage. So previously, you would have done the first bay with rifle and the last 2 with pistol. This would be all pistol. And the USW is able to make very short work of that Death Star. Unload 1 shot on the static plate, which renders the gun safe, and I can run to the next bay. This one is a cool mechanic. You can see the 5 boxes there. There are 2 targets. What I have to do is get 1 hit on each target, and then I can move forward to the next box and repeat. However, if I miss at any time, I have to move back one box and start over. So I'm sounding like a broken record here, but this is again where the USW does extremely well because it makes it really easy for me to get those hits. So pull the magazine, I have one shot, which I successfully make. Safety rule does not apply until I reload the gun. And our third bay is basically the exact same thing as the previous one. The boxes are going in a diagonal line instead. In this case, we had a range prop failure, so I'll do the rest hitting the one remaining target twice. That's sort of a standard solution for a match like this if something goes wrong. Oh, there we go. I missed one shot, so I have to go back a box and start over. But I get my 2 hits there, get my 2 hits here, and 5th place out of the entire match. So somewhere the USW is a great tool.
All right, so I have completed all 7 stages of the match. We're now hiking back out to the entrance so that I can complete my technical participation in Trooper Division, carrying everything from the match. My backpack's a whole lot lighter now that I have eaten my lunch, drunk a bunch of the water, and shot a substantial amount of ammo that I was carrying this morning. So, overall thoughts about the USW. I came away from this with a different understanding of it than I expected going in. What I thought going in was that the USW would effectively be a PCC, a pistol caliber carbine that you can carry in a holster, which is a really cool concept. This is part of what drew me to this idea. And it's not just the USW, like stocked pistols in general. That's kind of the attitude that I had towards them. My feeling after doing 7 stages, and 7 stages that really did a good job of running the gamut from close range, high volume, difficult shooting, out to very much rifle shooting, 200-yard shots on small targets. Having done that all, I feel like what the USW actually does is it gives you a better pistol. It is not a substitute for a carbine. It is a pistol that you can shoot a little bit faster, a little bit more accurately, and it is ideal for places where you need a pistol, but you really need to be sure of your pistol shots. If you need a carbine, you need a carbine, and the USW is not going to suffice. So, thinking about it, some of the examples that come to mind where a USW could be well put to good use would be, for example, this sounds stupid, mall security or school resource officer. The idea being, these are places where you don't want someone you don't want to arm someone necessarily with a carbine. You don't have particularly long shots that you could potentially be called upon to make, but there are going to be a lot of people around, and you're going to need to make a good, precise shot under stress. A little bit different from typical use of a pistol, I think. And that is a place where the third point of contact on the USW stock really helps and can give you a tangible benefit. But the whole thing can be folded up and carried in a nice, innocuous holster. It can be carried concealed if necessary, or just carried subtly. It doesn't stand out as being a particularly frightening looking weapon. I think some of those applications it would work for. On the other hand, if you consider for instance, a rural sheriff's officer who's looking for something that can be easily carried and substitute for a carbine because they're out in the boonies and they might have to shoot something at 200 or 300 yards. That's something I thought the USW would be good for. Changed my mind entirely having gone through the match. This is not a substitute for a carbine. So there are a couple different versions of them, of course. This one is a SIG 320 base. They also make a USW chassis for the Glock. And then, of course, there's the original Brugger Thomet USW pistols, which were loosely based on the Sphinx or the CC75. It would still be interesting to try one of those because they're a little bit different. But I think my experience today is going to be pretty representative of all 3 different models. I don't think you'd see anything hugely different between them. So this has been a really interesting experience. I'm happy that we started with the long range because it basically meant that the longer the day went, every stage I did was better for me than the stage before, which leads to a nice happy afternoon. getting some insight into a pretty cool firearm that there's not a lot of discussion out there. So anyway, hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. This is a fun way for me to spend Desert Brutality 2022. I am coming back tomorrow and Sunday. Well, not tomorrow when you see this, but the next 2 days at Desert Brutality, I'll be shooting the standard regular match with a different loadout in a different division. So we'll have some video on that as well. Thanks for watching.